Hi, welcome to Close to Home's Basic Saturday Sampler for October of 2021. This month, we're going to go over the Tri-Rex tool. We did it in intermediate, so if you're new to basic, you probably have not seen this ruler explained. So the block is a 9x9 block, and it's made up of half square triangles. The triangle in a square, which is what we're going to go over tonight, the Tri-Rex tool, and a square in a square. All right, each of these squares finishes at 4 inches, and it's a 3x3, so 9 blocks total. All right, so in the cutting chart that comes with your kit, you're going to cut the first strip 5 inches wide. From that strip, it's going to yield 2 5-inch squares and 1 2 7/8 inch square. The 2 7/8 inch square is for a square in a square, and it's going to be cut on the diagonal once. The very next strip of the white, you're going to cut a 4.5 inch strip from the kit, from whatever's left, and you're going to yield 1 2 7/8 inch square, cut on the diagonal, and you're just going to leave the remainder of the white. It's approximately 13 inches. From the blue, very simply, a 4.5 inch by the kit fabric, 4.5 inches wide. The multi is a 5 inch, 2 5-inch squares. And these are for the half square triangles, and we're going to cut these down because we need these to be a finished 4.5 inch half square triangle. So I'm going to show you a little trick about how to cut down a half square triangle. And then the very last piece is our center for our square in a square, and this one is cut at 3 3/8. All right, so we'll go over the half square triangle first. What you need to do is take your multi and your white, right sides together. These are my 5-inch squares. So the 5-inch multi and the 5-inch white, right sides together. We're going to draw our diagonal line, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch from that line. Once we cut it on the line, we're going to go ahead and press it toward the multi. So again, we're going to hold up our multi and give that a little press. All right, so when we're trimming this block, we want to trim this down to 4.5. So the easiest way to do that is to take one of our creative grid rulers, either a square, a rectangle, and we're going to look for the 45-degree line that goes down. Can you see it? The 45-degree line that goes right into the corner of our 1/2 and our 1/2 inch sides of the ruler. And we're going to put this on our square right along the diagonal, making sure that the diagonal 45-degree line is right between the white and the multi. And I'm going to push this down into the corner as far as possible. So you see I can trim it along the edges, and then at the 4.5, when I turn my square, my half square around, I will be able to trim away those edges. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so that's one side, and then we'll just rotate it 180 degrees, place our ruler back on top, and this time we've got our 45 right on that seam allowance, and the cut edges of my square are right on the 4.5 inch mark. So now we're able to square this up to 4.5 inches, knowing that our seam is right down the middle. All right, so we're going to do 4 of those. Okay, done 2. The next piece we're going to go over is our square in a square really quick. So what I've done is I've taken the 3 3/8 red square and my 2 7/8 inch squares that I've cut on the diagonal. I've folded my triangle, the 2 7/8 triangle, and just kind of finger pressed the longest edge, the base of my triangle. And I'm going to do that to the same thing with the red. So this one I've already done. Let me go ahead and press this, and I'll show you on these sides to complete it. So they're all done the exact same way. We do opposite sides first. So we've done opposite sides first. I found my center of the white and the red, and I sewed my 1/4 inch. So now I've marked the halfway point of the base of this triangle, and I'm going to go ahead and put my reds together and give that a little bit of a finger press so I know where the center of that one is. I'm just going to place these right on top, matching my creases, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch straight across. Now this one, so let me back it up real quick. When I did this one, it doesn't necessarily come out at the notch, at this little V area. I hope you can see that there's just a little bit, this 1/4 inch is not coming out at the V, and it shouldn't. You should have like a little overage. Do you see where the threads are coming out? I know it's kind of hard to see. But right here, it's not coming out at the little V, but up higher. So just make sure you'll get a nice square and a square if you follow this. So we're going to go ahead and put these two together. To find my... All right, and now this time it will come out at the V, and that's a good thing, because so when we open this up, my white is going to go straight across. So I'll go ahead and let's go to the sewing machine. All right, so notice where the V is. Right in here. Right in that little groove, that's where my needle's coming in, right there. We'll go ahead and go all the way across, and it's going to come out the other side, be on the other side. So slow, and 1/4 inch right there, okay? So you'll see when we press this, the white goes straight across the seam. And this is our 1/4 inch where we're going to be sewing that every time. So go ahead and do it to the other side, and we'll make our square and a square. The last shape I'm going to go over with you is how to cut your Rex from the Tri-Rex tool. So the Tri-Rex tool is made up of 2 rulers. One is called the Tri tool, and the other is called the Rex tool. All right, and the Rex tool, we need a left and a right, and so the fabric has to be folded, and we'll go over that in a second. So let's go ahead and cut our triangles from our Tri tool, just knowing that if I want a 4-inch finished triangle in a square, I will be cutting my strips 4.5. If I wanted a 2-inch triangle in a square, I would cut my strips 2.5 inches. All right, so always cut your strip a 1/2 inch bigger than your finished size. So I've cut my strips 4.5, and again, I'm doing the blue on these. So the first thing you want to do is lay out your Tri tool so that the base of your ruler goes right along the bottom edge of the blue strip, and the blunt side at the top is right at the top of your strip. And we can push this over so we don't waste too much fabric. And we'll go ahead and cut these 2 angles, and this will be our first cut. All right. So that's the first one. We just go ahead and rotate this 180 degrees. Put our Tri tool back on the exact same angle. This time the bottom of your strip is going to be the flat part and the top of your strip will be the long part. And give that a cut, and we're just going to cut 4 of these. Keep spinning your tool so that you can line up each cut. Then what I found with the Easy quilter rulers is that they tend to have a little bit of a no grip when you first get the ruler. So what I've done is I've attached some Omni grip, I don't know, look, it's like a cling form, like a vinyl cling that actually sticks to the ruler, and this helps keep the ruler from sliding on you. And we do sell that here at close to home. So you can pick yourself up a tube, and any of the rulers that you find do not have any grips on them, this is a great product to put underneath them. All right, so here we have our 4 triangles. And the next thing we're going to do is cut our rectangles. So remember how I said you need a left side and a right side? And so what we're going to do is we're going to fold the long 4.5-inch piece of white that we have. It doesn't matter, right sides together, wrong sides together, but just make sure that you have one up and one down. So I fold that right in half. Okay. The next thing you want to do is place your Rex tool. Again, very simply, the 4.5-inch mark on the line at the bottom of your strip and the top edge of the Rex tool at the top of your strip. And I'm going to push this over as far as I can. I do want to cut all the sides. And at the very top of the Rex tool, you'll notice that there is this small notch. And I'm going to cut that because that's very important so that we know where to place the rectangles when we sew them to the blue triangles. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. Cut my notch. And then cut this. All right, so that's my first pair. Remember, this fabric is folded in half, so now I have a left and a right. Okay. So we're going to continue with this ruler, cutting 4 sets all the way down our strip. Okay, so once we have our strips, our Rex cut, we're going to go ahead and sew one side first. So get them all set up, and when I flip the Rex onto the triangle, the blue triangle, I want to make sure that I match up the raw edges right on top of each other, and that little notch that I cut is even with the bottom base of my triangle. And I just want you to note that the side of the Rex, the side pieces are going to extend beyond the blue triangle, and that's a good thing. You don't want to match it up with this piece. We just want to match it up with the side we're sewing. And also note that the little blunt edge of my blue triangle is going to be a little bit short of my white, and that's perfect. So when we sew, the 1/4 inch is going to come right out at this point, right at the point of the blue. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll get it started and then I'll wind it up, needle down. Okay. Get my edges right on top of each other, making sure my little notch is right along the base of my blue triangle. I'll go ahead and sew this. Nice accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. And again, it's going to come out right at this point of the white. Right there at the point. Okay, great. All right, so the next thing we want to do is press all these towards the triangle, which is the white side. So if it's getting pressed toward the white side is up. And we're just going to flip it upwards and give that a little press. Okay. All right, so we're back to the flat part of my blue, which is always the top of my triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the other side. And it's the same thing. When we flip this over, sorry, my little notches. When we flip this over, we want to make sure the notch that I cut off is right at the bottom of the triangle, and this lines straight up the side and matches with my little triangle at the top. Okay, so we'll go ahead and sew this. These shapes are made for Storm at Sea. If you know what a Storm at Sea quilt is, it's a really pretty quilt to make. So this time it's going to come right out the V. My needle should come right out at the crease right there. All right. And the last thing we want to do is press these again toward the rectangle. Okay. We have a nice flat edge that goes across. This now measures 4.5. Whoops, I didn't press that very good. But you notice the little tip up here and how it intersects at 1/4 inch at the top of my triangle. So this is a little bit different because when you're sewing this 1/4 inch seam here, it might not lock like a 45-degree like your half square triangle. So when we put our block together, just a little word of warning, this is pretty much the hardest part. When you're sewing these three together, that's not the problem. I ran into some area where it was hard to match these 6 pieces to these 6 pieces and get a nice corner spot right here. So I suggest perhaps that you maybe lengthen your stitch and baste it first and check it to see if it looks like it's meeting in the right place, and then go back with a shorter stitch just to solidify the 2 pieces together. Sometimes it helps to baste it first. All right, and when we do this, we want to make sure we don't cut off our little points there. So very simple, triangle and a square. It's called the Tri-Rex tool, and I just want to say bring in September's basic block. Finished. Finished means it includes the applique around the hearts. And beginning Saturday, October 16th to pick up your October's block free. All right, and don't forget, next week, Tuesday, October 19th, we're doing a serger class with Bernina's newest serger, and you're going to make a runner. So hopefully you'll sign up for that as well. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.